Thank you, Margaret, and we will continue to bring you live coverage from St. James tonight.
We are going to devote this full half hour to this tragedy that occurred here in downtown Seattle, what has happened the last few moments and what has happened over the last 24 hours.
First, though, we want to tell you how last night's fire began. The first of the 100 firefighters who responded arrived here at the scene at the 800 block of 7th Avenue South last night. It was a night of duty they will not soon forget. The time is 7:02 when the first call comes in. Firefighters arrive just minutes later to find the fire is well involved. By 7:15, a special response is triggered. 5 minutes later, something goes terribly wrong inside the building. A fire lieutenant calls for his crews to get out. And seconds later, the floor collapses. 4 firefighters are still inside.
There was some kind of explosion inside. The floor collapsed, and we have 4 missing firefighters.
A second and third alarm are called, but by 7:45, the crews are ordered back. The blaze is too dangerous even to try and help the 4 firefighters trapped inside.
Today, family and friends and colleagues are mourning the loss of 4 men. They are Lieutenant Walter Kilgore, the eldest of the group, 45 years old, a 24-year veteran. Gregory Shoemaker was 43. He had served 22 years on the force. Randall Terlicker was 35. He had been a Seattle firefighter for 4 years. And James T. Brown, a 3-year veteran of the force, was the youngest of those killed. We do not have his picture this evening. Now, aside from the sadness and the mourning that is going on here, this is also a crime scene. The investigation of this deadly blaze continues. The Pang family had received threats, at least reported threats, that their property would be burned down. KYRO's Cindy Benson has been following that part of the story for us. Cindy, what have you learned?
Steve, what we can tell you is that this business was of interest to authorities even before last night's fire. While no one can say yet whether this was arson, they will say this fire looks suspicious.
But we will leave no stone unturned in our efforts to identify the cause of this deadly fire. And if this was an arson fire, we will do everything in our power to bring the perpetrators to justice.
Even before Mayor Rice made that pledge, firefighters were laying the groundwork for a possible criminal investigation. They apparently have important information to consider: the possibility of arson threats made against the Pang family business. Seattle fire officials are guarded on the subject.
We've been made aware of all those, and again, we're just not at liberty to discuss anything to do with the investigation at this point.
But on the scene Thursday night, a Seattle police captain did confirm threats had been made to the company, and further acknowledged that several agencies had been looking into those. As to reports of recent surveillance on the building, Police Chief Norm Stamper wouldn't comment.
That I think we're at that moment in the investigation where we've got to take a very sober and constrained position, which is basically to provide no details that would in any way compromise the investigation.
Now, where things stand tonight is that investigators from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms will be meeting with local police and fire officials to try to come up with some type of strategy for investigating this fire. Most of that will take place tomorrow, the investigation. The first order of business, though, is to retrieve the bodies from the building. Steve and Joyce.
And that is being done right now. Cindy, thank you.
Well, the owners of the building, the Pang family, have not said today how they think this fire started. Harry Pang says that he first heard about the fire while watching KYRO News yesterday evening. After driving frantically to his food processing warehouse, he told us that he and his wife always did a last safety check before closing up shop at night.
We are real careful, my wife and I. When we get off work, we check everything from gas jet, electrical wire, everything before we leave the building. And then we lock up and leave.
Harry and Mary Pang have been partners in life and in their food business for 40 years, cooking up Chinese food at their warehouse here in the International District. Last night, they watched as their multi-million-dollar business burned to the ground. Their grief made worse now, they say, by the loss of the firefighters.
We'll be back in just a few minutes. We will check back in with Margaret Larson at St. James Cathedral on Capitol Hill for the memorial service going on. We will also show you what we know about the final moments of those fallen firefighters inside that building, which is nothing but rubble tonight.
The bodies are just beginning to come out of that building. We will continue our special coverage in the line of duty when we come back.
really brings home how brief this life is, and how each day we have to live to the fullest. It's a real tragedy, and I really feel for the families involved. It brings it all home when you know people who are firefighters.
Welcome back to Cairo's special live report, In the Line of Duty. 4 Seattle firefighters lost their lives fighting the flames you see there 24 hours ago. We are broadcasting live from the scene of the Pang warehouse in the International District.
Last night's fire was a frantic time for firefighters who were here inside this burning building just minutes before the alarm rang out, that 5th alarm, and then that floor came crashing down. Cairo's Brian Wood now takes us to that very critical moment, that deadly moment when that floor crashed down.
The firefighters killed were among the first on the scene. A well-involved fire, but not huge. Crews from 2 engines and 1 ladder truck grabbed hoses and broke through the front of the Mary Pang building. Fire officials say just 25 feet inside, it was already too far and too late.
What happened is that they heard a rumbling and a kind of a movement on the floor.
That rumbling became an explosion, and the floor collapsed under them.
One of the lieutenants that perished in the fire had the concern of his crew, and he told his crew to get the heck out of here. And they bailed out through 2 windows on the west side of the building. That's some of the heroics that were exhibited at that fire last night.
Heroics that Fire Chief Claude Harris, Seattle Police Chief Norm Stamper, and Mayor Norm Rice want everyone to recognize.
This tragedy should remind every Seattle resident of the enormous risks and terrible sacrifices that our firefighters make every day as they protect this community.
Brian Wood, Cairo News Channel 7.
Let's now take you from the International District to Capitol Hill, where the memorial service is going on right now for the fallen firemen. Margaret?
Steve, what's happening at St. James Cathedral tonight is a prayer service that is regularly scheduled on this night, but is tonight dedicated to the 4 fallen firefighters. There are people here from all walks of life, families with children, police officers, people from all areas of this community who have come together to try to vent their emotions and to pay their respects to these 4 men who served this community so well. Again, a reminder about the 4 we are remembering tonight. Lieutenant Walter Kilgore, a 24-year veteran of the fire department, married man with 3 children. Gregory Shoemaker, a 22-year veteran, married and the father of 2. Randy Terlicker was with the department for 4 years, 35 years old and single. James Brown, 25 years old, who leaves behind a wife. Again, about 100 people in attendance tonight. They are here to make sure that the families, the friends, the rest of the community know that these firefighters are remembered and respected for all they gave for all of us. Joyce, Steve?
Margaret, thank you. We will be going back to the prayer service one last time in this half hour.
We still have a lot more to tell you about in our special extended coverage. Still ahead, we are going to profile a longtime veteran of the fire department, a man who died last night.
First, though, words from people passing by the scene of the fire to pay their respects today.
I just think it's just a testimony to how dangerous fighting a fire really is, especially one of this magnitude being such an old building.
Prayers fill St. James Cathedral in Seattle. Prayers for the 4 Seattle firefighters killed last night. Prayers for their loved ones trying to cope with their deaths. I'm Margaret Larson. These are live pictures from tonight's prayer service. Welcome back to our special report, In the Line of Duty. The prayers are filling St. James Cathedral after the deadliest fire in the history of the Seattle Fire Department.
Thank you, Margaret. And we do have some new information to pass along to you. We understand from Georgia Taylor from the fire department in Seattle that one of the bodies, one of the victims, has been recovered from this burned out warehouse behind us. They still have 3 more to recover, and they are working diligently in that task.
And then for the rest of the evening and into the early hours, there will be a fire watch here. The entire scene will be secured so then investigators can go in. Meantime, support is pouring in from all over the country tonight for the families of the fallen firefighters.
Cairo's Lisa Hughes talked with the daughter of Walter Kilgore earlier today, and Kilgore is the most senior member of those 4 firefighters killed last night.
Throughout the Northwest, flags are at half-staff in Seattle and in Portland.
Police officers and emergency crews are wearing black over their badges to pay tribute, and the families of victims are relying on their friends.
It's going to be hard when people start going away and reality sets in.
Michelle Campbell's father, Walter Kilgore, died in last night's blaze. He was a 24-year veteran of the department, 4 years from retirement.
I think what he'd want you to know is that to respect the firemen. I think people, you know, they look at the red engine and they respect him, but they don't know that they're risking their life every time they go out, no matter what they do. And for an empty building, they risk their life.
Friends of the 4 men say firefighters nationwide are lending their support. They know what it means to lose a colleague.
We share our lives, many for 5, 10, 15, 20 years with the same people. And you get to know them, you get to know their families, and it strikes us very deeply when anything of this nature occurs.
The type of thing everyone hopes will never happen.
This is a tragedy. It's a nightmare. It's happening to us. It's not happening to someone else. You know, what people are reading, it's happening to me.
Lisa Hughes, Cairo, News Channel 7.
And Cairo has established a fund to help the families of the 4 firefighters killed. If you would like to help, you can send your donation to any Seafirst Bank branch in the name of the Seattle firefighters.
This is certainly not the first time this has happened. You have to go back, though, 5 years to the last time there was a death in the Seattle Fire Department.
If you say the name Blackstock, that still sends chills down the spines of firefighters. Next, we'll explore that fire, and we will talk to a man who says it was an angel who pulled him to safety.
Planned over here, and then I'm going to go.
And as we continue our Cairo special report in the line of duty, one can't help but remember this blaze, the Blackstock lumber yard. It exploded in flames 5 years back. Fire crews cannot look back without sadness. It is the last time a Seattle firefighter died in the line of duty. Matthew Johnson and his partner were trapped inside that inferno. Johnson did not make it out of that lumber yard alive. The death toll from the Blackstock fire officially today stands at just 1.
But in a very real sense, the fire took another part of another life as well, and that of Johnson's partner, Bill Meredith. Though he survived, physically at least, the man he was disappeared the night of that Blackstock fire. Today he spoke with our Julie Blacklow.
I was amazed how instantly I was back there. You know, I thought I'd kind of recovered and was on a different road in life.
Bill Meredith is a man somewhat frozen in time, haunted by a single night 5 years ago in a lumber yard called Blackstock. A firefighter trapped with the partner he tried but failed to save. Meredith was transported back there when he saw the flames from the fire last night.
We were exposed to tremendous heat. I think my body was shutting down. When you start to die, which we were dying, your body kind of shuts down, sacrificing different parts. I knew I was dying.
Until that night, Bill Meredith was a 20-year veteran who considered himself an aggressive fireman, brave, confident, and convinced that tragedy always happens to the other guys. And he was not at all a religious man. But the fire changed all of that.
The way I got out of that fire was, I believe I was led out by angels. And, you know, I'd like the wives and the family of these firefighters, if they are dead, to know that there's no doubt in my mind that they're with God, with the angels. I saw them. And that's the only comfort I have out of this whole thing.
After Blackstock, Meredith thought he could go on fighting fires, but within a year, he left for good. He has turned his hobby of gardening into a partial new profession, and he drives a school bus. He says he has learned to enjoy life's little things.
Sometimes I just like to lay down at night and just take a breath of air and just think how good that feels.
Much of what he used to think mattered doesn't mean the same to him anymore.
I don't think that there's a building in the city or the state that's worth a fingernail on a fireman's hand, let alone his life. When a building burns down or falls down, you can replace that, but when a fireman falls, you can't replace a father, a son. There's no doubt in my mind that those firefighters are with God, with the angels.
That angels exist at some
Oh yeah, they're there.
And, in a sense, part of Bill Meredith is with them too. Julie Blacklow, Cairo, News Channel 7.
And we will be back with more of our live coverage from here at the scene of this tragic fire right after this. And welcome back, everyone, to our special coverage tonight in the line of duty.
Before we wrap things up for this 6:30 half hour, we want to turn to Brian Wood, who is located about 100 yards from us as he continues to watch over the removal of the 4 firemen inside this burned out building. Brian?
That's right, Steve. Here at this end of the building, the vigil continues for the removal of 3 of the remaining firefighters who died here in fighting the Mary Pang warehouse fire. Dozens of firefighters, some of them in their dress blues, are standing by, ready to pay their respects with salutes, as we saw about a half an hour ago when the first of the victims was removed. Seattle police officers here as well, saluting as well, and prepared with another motorcycle motorcade to the King County Medical Examiner's office. Back to you, Steve.
Brian, thanks.
Very tragic day, not only for the firefighters, but for everyone here in the community. We hope that you will stay tuned to Cairo tonight. We will continue to bring you updates on any new developments in this investigation, and we will have the very latest on Cairo News at 11 tonight.
And I think from all of us, our prayers and our thoughts go out to the family, the friends, and again, as Mayor Rice said, we all in the community need to remember the 4 who gave their lives serving their community. 4 firefighters who died here in the International District 24 hours ago. In the meantime, we'll be back again at 11. Thank you for joining us for this special In the Line of Duty. Good night.